So this episode 4 of Under the Bridge, was probably the most terrifying and uncomfortable episode so far. It starts out being narrated by Reena herself, and she says that on November 14th, 1997, Kelly killed her. But her story began long before she got there. We get a personal history of her immigrant family, starting with Reena's grandparents who moved to Canada in 1951, with both of their families still back in India. Obviously, not all of the neighbors took kindly to them moving in, and all they wanted was to belong and make a home for themselves. Then one day, there was a knock at the door. 2 of Jehovah's Witnesses had come to spread their word. Her grandparents are still very much Hindu at this point, so I'm interested to see how this will work out, how they'll eventually convert, because that's kind of a big deal. In the timeline where Reena is still alive, remember she just invited her friends, the Seven Oak girls, over for dinner. Anyway, they've arrived at the house and they comment how they'd better not have to take off their shoes. Already rude. Reena's mother is actually pretty sweet, and I feel sorry for her for what is probably going to unfold. Reena's dad says that they're welcome to keep their shoes on, he just wants everybody to feel comfortable. Dusty, as usual, is the normal one, and she's interested in the framed pictures of places that the family has traveled to. But both Kelly and Josephine are not there for that. They're still rude and quite disruptive. It's understandable that they would be envious of Reena's life, but because those 2 girls consider Reena beneath them in their friend hierarchy, it fuels their jealousy. Also, for once they're on Reena's turf, so to speak. So Reena is happy, she's comfortable to show them around, but Josephine isn't really in charge in this situation, so she takes any opportunity to try and keep the power. Suman, Reena's mother, is highly suspicious of the girls and the fact that Reena is turning more into them every day. But her father, Majid, thinks that if they're just kind to the girls, help them, then this will help Reena out. And besides, he says, they once weren't what their parents wanted either. Suman's father arrived from India to Canada in 1979. At the time, his sister, who had already lived there, invited him to a party in the hopes of him meeting someone there. Who knows, he could meet her and they could get married, and he wouldn't have to worry about his tourist visa expiring and having to go back to India. The party's at Suman's parents' home, and her mom tries to set her up with an accomplished engineer, but she's not interested. Majid sees this and he saves her from her parents. It's more comedic than really serious. It seems like quite a cozy, friendly gathering with diverse-looking people. There are white people there as well. It's mentioned in the episode that the sense of community provided by the church, and which Suma's parents couldn't really find anywhere else, was quite important to them. And while it's not explicitly explained why they converted, it's not hard to imagine that the sense of belonging to the church could have played a role in that. Suman and Majid, who is Sikh, get to know each other, and after a few weeks she invites her parents to dinner to tell them that this is who she wants to spend her life with. Her father isn't having it and he walks off. Her mother asks her if she really knows him. Does she know that he stayed weeks beyond what his tourist visa allows? His sister doesn't make enough money to qualify to sponsor him, but there is another way. As in, if he got married to Suman, he'd be able to stay. Obviously, Suman did not know this, and this causes a rift in the couple for a little while, but they end up reconciling, and then, oh no, Majid shaves his beard and he decides to leave his faith to become a witness. So even though I'm not really a religious person, knowing how important that beard was in his Sikh faith, this scene really broke my heart. I mean, people convert for love all the time, I guess, but this hit hard. And maybe it's because he's becoming a witness, which I see as being kind of culty. Anyway, back to the dinner. Josephine goes into Suman's closet, and every time she tries to derail things, Suman is there to kindly shut it down. At one point, Josephine is rummaging about the closet and she sees a sari that she says isn't her size, but maybe it would fit Dusty. Honestly, I wouldn't even call Dusty bigger in size. She just dresses in oversized clothing, and she's just not as thin as Kelly and Josephine. Anyway, Suma steps in and she says that the sari can fit anyone, and she thinks that it would suit Dusty. Would Dusty like to try it on? Dusty looks really pleased, and they go off to try on the sari. I thought it was really cute that later on in the episode at the dinner table, you see that Dusty is wearing the sari. Anyway, Majid soon comes in to check on the girls. Nobody is in any state of undress or inappropriate. It's completely normal, but Josephine asks if he's just going to watch them change, making it weird, and then Reena yells at him to leave. Kelly wanders off to use the bathroom, and she walks straight to the living room and she takes the parrot out of its cage. The family has pizza and the girls are enjoying it. Majid says he'll even pack leftovers for them. Things get a little tense when he mentions saying a prayer as something that their family always does. Reena's pretty embarrassed and she warns him that he said he promised. Even Suman says it's fine, they don't have to, but he insists, and so they pray. They all survive it, but then it gets really bad, and it's mostly Majid's fault for really maybe meaning well, but really overstepping because he doesn't even know these girls, actually. He tells Dusty that he'll pray for a reunion between her and her sister. Dusty's sister kicked her out because she was a handful. Then he tells Josephine that he knows how she must feel because his dad also wasn't around much when he was a kid. He thinks that all the adults in her life failed her for leaving her to fend for herself. He says that Reena told him that she'd been dealt quite a bad hand. This is very upsetting and embarrassing for Josephine, who curses at him and leaves the table, and Reena is understandably upset. She runs after Joe, but the girls get picked up by their house mother and they're gone. Suman then sees that her precious earrings passed down from her mom that she told Josephine would be Reena's one day are gone. Josephine was admiring them, so we know who took them. Then Reena notices that her parrot cage is open and the bird is nowhere to be found. Suman wants to call the police, but Reena is still very protective of the girls. Her parents tried to get through to her that these are not her real friends, and Reena has everything. She has a home and loving family. Reena answers that those are the only girls that let her hang out. Nobody else does. She later goes to Seven Oaks to tell the girls that her dad is stupid, but that she's not allowed to hang out with them anymore, so she's come to say goodbye. She also asks Kelly about the earrings, saying that her mom thinks she stole them, and she also asks about the missing bird. Kelly asks, well, why would I take those ugly earrings, and what do I know about a dumb bird? Josephina tells Reena that she feels really sorry for her because she lives in a concentration camp, basically. She, Josephine, chose to live at Seven Oaks, which is much better in comparison. She kind of lies and she says that her mother begged her to stay at home and that it was pathetic. But here at Seven Oaks, she has no rules. But she does know of a way to help Reena get out of her home if she wants. This scene was interesting to me because instead of Josephine just accepting that Reena would no longer be coming around, she goes out of her way to find a way to keep Reena around. And I guess it's because she likes having another minion around. Dusty pretty much goes along with everything, but she's not as desperate for approval as Reena. Reena is easier to manipulate, and it seems Josephine isn't ready to lose that. Not yet, anyway. Obviously, Reena also comes from a stable, middle-class family, and I do wonder if this adds to the desire that Josephine has to try, at least, to bring her down a peg. In the next scene, Reena goes to the receptionist of Seven Oaks and tells her that she needs to tell her something about her dad. Meanwhile, back at home, her dad sees the parrot outside and brings it in. In the past timeline, young Suma tells her mother that Majid is going to convert for her. Her mother gives her those earrings and a Bible, and it looks like the parents are thawing a little. Well, at least her mother is. Her father needs a bit more time. And we go on to see Majid get baptized and the couple get married. In the timeline where Reena is still alive, she accuses her father, obviously, of, I'm going to use the word hurting her here because in the original video, when I explained what Reena accused her father of, YouTube got very weird with a content warning. He's taken away from the house by the police and Reena gets a room at Seven Oaks. And yeah, that's this week's episode of Under the Bridge. I'm very curious now because we have quite a few episodes to go, I think 3 or 4, and we already know that Kelly killed Reena. So there must be a lot more story there, which I'm kind of dreading because this is just a nightmare of terrifying teenagers. But obviously at the same time, I'm hooked, so I'll definitely be tuning in. Anyway, if you have any thoughts, feel free to share, and thank you for watching.